Cheryl Miller, I'm disappointed in you. Disappointed in you, Cheryl. And you know what? I shouldn't be because earlier this season, you already started to show me your true colors.
I'm getting disgusted by the WNBA to the point that I'm finding it harder and harder to love or even like.
Oh!
Sue Bird, I'm not shocked at you at all. You've been a snake. You've been a snake this whole time. I don't know why Caitlin even goes on your podcast. I don't know why she supports anything you do. You've been a snake in the grass.
I want them to do the same things that they did during that time and stand up for their brand. This is our brand, and not watch a bunch of outsiders hijack the league.
They called you an outsider, and they said it on national television with a smile on their face. Cheryl Miller, Hall of Famer, broadcasting legend, one of the most respected voices in women's basketball history, sat down during a halftime segment of a Minnesota Lynx-Dallas Wings game and said that players in this league need to stand in their conviction and not watch a bunch of outsiders hijack the league. Unprompted.
Cheryl Miller, what'd you think about the fan that was spit on in the Seattle Storm's arena? What did you think about it? Oh, y'all real silent, but y'all want to try to talk about Caitlin Clark fans and how they're hijacking the league.
Not in response to a direct question, not in the middle of a heated debate, she volunteered it. She chose those words deliberately on a national platform and then moved on like she hadn't just dropped a grenade in the middle of the room. So let's ask the question that nobody in that broadcast booth was willing to ask out loud. Who exactly is she talking about? Because we need to sit with that word, outsiders. Think about what that word means.
How they rallied around the brand, the WNBA, and that's what I want to see. I want them to do the same things that they did during that time and stand up for their brand. This is our brand, and not watch a bunch of outsiders hijack the league.
An outsider is someone who doesn't belong, someone who showed up uninvited, someone whose presence is a problem to be solved, not a gift to be welcomed. That's the word Cheryl Miller chose. And she didn't say it once and correct herself. She built a whole philosophy around it. Stand in your conviction. Don't let outsiders hijack your league. Your league, as in not yours, as in you don't belong here.
What you mean outsiders? Who is outsiders? Who is outsiders? You clearly taking a shot at Caitlin Clark fans. You are clearly doing that because since day one, y'all have been trying to paint a picture that her fans are the problem with the league. When the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't for her fans, y'all wouldn't be making $1.some million.
And here's what makes this so infuriating, so genuinely breathtaking in its contradiction. This is not the first time Cheryl Miller has spoken about Caitlin Clark publicly, not even close, because Cheryl Miller has praised Caitlin Clark on the record.
I didn't know how talented she was and how well she sees the game in a 3D version, thinker. Defensively, a lot better than I thought and gave her credit for.
She has acknowledged what Clark means to this game, what she's brought to this league, what her presence represents for the future of women's basketball. That praise exists. It is documented. It is real. Which means this is not a case of someone who has always been skeptical, someone who has always seen the new audience as an intrusion. This is someone who saw the wave coming, acknowledged it, celebrated it publicly.
It's just been fascinating to watch these young ladies come up and now take the baton and take it to a different level. I'm just glad that these young ladies who are at the upper tier players, I hope and pray that they have a solid foundation.
And then turned around on national television and called the people riding that wave outsiders trying to hijack the game. That is not a consistent position. That is a reversal. And reversals like that don't happen in a vacuum. They happen when something shifts, when the politics of a room change, when the pressure to say a certain thing, to align with a certain side, becomes louder than the honest instinct that produced the original praise.
Y'all wouldn't be getting all this stuff. Y'all would still be standing on the side, hitchhiking for rides to games. What are you talking about? Y'all was getting paid in Subway sandwiches and chips before this girl got here. And what was it being hijacked in Seattle when an Indiana Fever fan was spit on?
We are not naive. We know how broadcasting works. We know how locker room politics work. We know that what people say on camera and what they believe in private are sometimes two entirely different things. But we also know this. When you go on national television and describe a category of fans as outsiders hijacking a league, you owe those fans an explanation. You owe them specificity. You owe them a name, a group, a behavior.
Cheryl Miller, I'm disappointed in you. Disappointed in you, Cheryl, and you know what? I shouldn't be, because earlier this season, you already started to show me your true colors, and I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. Cheryl Miller, I'm disgusted. Disgusted. Another snake.
Something concrete that you're actually talking about. Cheryl Miller gave us none of that, and that absence of specificity is doing a tremendous amount of work. Because when you say outsiders and refuse to define it, you let the word land wherever it's going to land. And for millions of fans watching that segment, it landed exactly one place. You felt it in real time. You didn't need a translator. You didn't need a commentator to walk you through the subtext. The word hit you, and you knew. That instinct wasn't wrong.
I'm curious, Cheryl, how you expect players to continue to galvanize around the league, push it forward, stand in their conviction when they need to, and do both of those things in the 30th season of the WNBA.
You know, I want to see all those things, but I also, more importantly, want to see that same leadership during the collective bargaining agreement and how they rallied around the brand.
Trust it. And don't let anyone gaslight you into second-guessing what you clearly heard with your own ears, in plain English, on live national television. Now let's talk about who was sitting in that same segment when these words were being spoken. Because the company you keep tells a story all on its own. Sue Bird was there. Sue Bird, WNBA legend, 5 Olympic gold medals, Seattle Storm royalty, arguably the most decorated player in the history of this league. She was in that conversation.
I do think that there are people trying to leverage our league for their own personal gain. And in my experience as a player, particularly in 2020, what I learned is you have tough conversations behind closed doors, you strategize, and that's how you figure out how to, for lack of a better, defend yourself and defend what this league has built.
And you need to understand what Sue Bird has chosen to say and what she has chosen not to say before you evaluate her presence in a conversation about who belongs in this league. Here's what Sue Bird stayed silent on. The Seattle Storm owner and the owner of the franchise where Bird made her entire legacy verbally assaulted 16-year-old girls, teenage girls, at an arena, and Sue Bird said nothing. Not a statement, not a tweet, not a comment in a post-game scrum, nothing.
Sue Bird, you was there courtside. You haven't said anything about the owner of the Seattle Storm that verbally assaulted those 16-year-old girls. You haven't said anything about that Indiana Fever Caitlin Clark fan that got spit on and was assaulted in the stands. You've been real quiet about that.
The woman who has built an entire public identity around advocacy, around speaking truth to power, around using her platform for what's right, went completely silent when the power was on the wrong side of the story. And it gets worse. An Indiana Fever fan, a Caitlin Clark fan, someone who bought a ticket and showed up to watch a basketball game, was spit on and physically assaulted inside a WNBA arena, the Seattle Storm's arena.
It was real quiet and silent with everything that took place in Seattle. It's crazy. All of a sudden, that snake Sue Bird got something to say. Straight clown. This is the lettered mafia, and that's cool, sticking together. You already know what it is. You already know what it is. They want to try to make it seem like, oh, Caitlin Clark and her fans are the issue.
And Sue Bird's response to that? Nothing. 0 words. Complete silence. A fan was attacked for being in the building, and the woman who was supposedly in that segment representing the soul of this league couldn't find a single word to say about it. But she could show up to a national broadcast and sit comfortably while someone talked about outsiders hijacking things. You tell me what that silence means. You tell me who Sue Bird has decided to protect with her platform.
Sue Bird, I'm not shocked at you at all. You've been a snake. You've been a snake this whole time. I don't know why Caitlin even goes on your podcast. I don't know why she supports anything you do. You've been a snake in the grass the whole time, and you've been out the grass. You have been outwardly hating and jealous of this girl. It's nasty.
And who she has decided isn't worth her words, because the math is not complicated. When a 16-year-old fan gets verbally attacked by an owner, silence. When a fan gets assaulted inside an arena, silence. But when there's an opportunity to align with a narrative about certain fans not belonging, she's right there. She's present. She's lending her credibility to that room. That is a choice. Every single day, Sue Bird makes a choice about what to care about publicly. And her choices, stacked up together, are telling you something very clear about whose feelings matter in this conversation. And I need you to actually sit with that. Not just nod at it, sit with it, because the same person who built her brand on advocacy looked directly past a fan being physically attacked and said nothing. If that doesn't tell you where the priorities are, nothing will. We are watching people curate their outrage in real time, and the fans getting spit on and assaulted didn't make the cut. And this is where we have to zoom out and look at what the league itself has done, or more accurately, what it has refused to do. Because the institutional silence is not separate from the outsiders conversation. It is the backbone of it. No suspension for what happened with the owner. No league statement. No meaningful coverage from the media apparatus that covers this league every single day. The story about a franchise owner verbally assaulting teenage girls, children who came to a WNBA game, was essentially buried. It did not get the wall-to-wall treatment that certain other stories get. It did not prompt emergency press conferences or urgent think pieces about the culture of the league, but the Carrington-Cunningham ejection, that got covered. That got immediate, heavy coverage. That story moved fast and it moved loud. So we have to ask, and this is not a rhetorical question, this is a genuine, uncomfortable, necessary question. Who does this league protect? When the evidence is an owner assaulting children and the coverage is minimal, and the evidence is a game incident and the coverage is maximum, you are watching an institution make choices about which stories serve the narrative it wants to tell. You are watching a league decide in real time what counts as a crisis and what gets quietly managed into irrelevance. And then Cheryl Miller gets on television and talks about outsiders hijacking the league, and we're supposed to nod along and not connect those dots? Let's talk about money. Let's talk about facts that nobody can argue with, because this is the part that completely demolishes the outsiders framing at its foundation. The Chicago Sky moved a Caitlin Clark game to the United Center, not Wintrust Arena. Their regular home, the arena they play in for every other game. The United Center, Michael Jordan's house, one of the most iconic sports venues in the country. They made that move specifically because the demand for that game was so enormous that their normal building couldn't hold it. Think about what that decision means. The Sky didn't move that game because of sentiment. They didn't move it to be nice or to make a political statement. They moved it because the financial reality, the ticket sales, the broadcast interest, the pure commercial pressure made the United Center the only rational choice. The league's own scheduling decisions confirmed in the most concrete possible way who the audience actually is and what that audience is worth. So when Cheryl Miller talks about outsiders hijacking the league, she is describing the exact people who caused a franchise to move their game to one of the greatest arenas in North America. She is describing the fans who made that decision necessary. She is calling the people who generated that demand outsiders. That is not a sustainable contradiction. You cannot cash the checks that Caitlin Clark's audience is writing and then describe that audience as a problem to be defended against. You cannot move your game to a bigger building because of the demand those fans created and then sit on national television and question whether those fans really belong here. That is having it both ways, and the people in this audience are too smart and too attentive to let that slide. We have watched this happen in slow motion. We have watched the league stretch its hand out for the revenue with one arm while pushing the fan base back with the other. You cannot run that play forever. Eventually, the people writing the checks start paying attention to how they're being talked about. And we are paying attention. We have been paying attention. Every sellout, every record rating, every ticket sold in a building that used to sit half empty. That was us. That was this audience. And we remember exactly how we got described in return. And look, Skip Bayless heard the same segment we heard.
Let's listen to hear what Skip Bayless had to say, shall we?
I'm getting sick and tired of the WNBA.
Woo.
I'm getting disgusted by the WNBA to the point that I'm finding it harder and harder to love or even like.
Skip Bayless, whatever you think of him, whatever side of that debate you fall on, he is a professional opinion maker who has been reading sports commentary for decades. He heard Miller's outsiders comment and he read it the same way, independently, on air. He did not need us to walk him through the subtext. And he heard the word, he understood the implication, and he said it out loud on his own platform. When multiple people from completely different vantage points, with completely different relationships to this story, hear the same word and arrive at the same conclusion without coordinating, that is not a misreading. That is a clear signal. The word landed where it was always going to land because that is where it was aimed. Cheryl Miller is smart. She has been in this industry long enough to know exactly what outsiders hijacking the league sounds like. She has been on enough broadcasts to understand that words don't exist in a vacuum, that they carry weight, that they travel. She chose that framing deliberately, and Skip Bayless heard it. And we heard it. And millions of people watching that broadcast heard it. So now we come to the question that has been underneath every single word of this video, the question that the segment never had to answer because nobody in that booth pushed back on it. Who are the outsiders? Cheryl Miller didn't say. Sue Bird didn't clarify. The league that buried the owner assault and the fan attack certainly isn't going to answer. The media that gave heavy coverage to one story and minimal coverage to another isn't going to re-examine its choices. So it falls to us. It falls to this audience. It falls to the people who bought tickets in markets that had never sold out before, who tuned in on broadcast television and drove ratings to numbers this league had not seen in years, who moved to the United Center because Wintrust wasn't big enough anymore. We are the ones left holding the word outsiders and being asked to decide what it means. You already know what it means. You knew the moment you heard it. And the fact that nobody in that room had the honesty to say it plainly, while simultaneously saying it plainly enough for everyone to understand, tells you everything you need to know about how this league actually feels about the people who showed up. They want what you bring. They just don't want you to think you belong. And if you've been watching this unfold and nobody in your circle gets it, you're in the right place. Courtside Leaks is where we see what the cameras don't show and say what the commentators won't. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because when the next story breaks, you'll want to be the first one who knew.